Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Overtime Podcast with Sparksy and Jared. And Jared Moore is with me tonight. Jared, how's it going, buddy?
Not too shabby. Just working on some stuff for work here, and I'm glad to have Zack aboard here.
Yeah, have our guest tonight is sports reporter, and if he wants to expand on that, I don't know if you're the sports editor at the Telegraph Forum in Bucyrus, but welcome aboard, Zack Holden. Glad to have you with us tonight, Zack.
Glad to be here. I do not want to take on any editing roles. We have just a head editor. That seems like too much pressure, I'd say, for me.
Too much pressure. All right. Just do what you do well and keep on doing it, right?
Exactly.
Well, we're glad that you took time for us tonight. And, a lot of the people we talk to are so familiar with this area because they come from this area, but you didn't. You're a native of Virginia Beach, Virginia, graduated from Colonial High School in 2009, went on to get your undergraduate degree at Virginia Commonwealth in Richmond, Virginia in 2013. And you were actually attending Virginia Commonwealth when Shaka Smart took Virginia Commonwealth to the Final Four in basketball in 2011. What was that like on campus?
Oh man, it was crazy. We didn't have football, so basketball was our thing. And as the season was kind of going on, nobody really thought that was going to happen. I mean, we kind of snuck in. We played in the first 4 games, and then we won that. And it kind of seemed like anything after that, it was just we made it as far as we could. And then we kept winning. And having the opportunity to actually go to the Final Four, that's an experience that's probably one of my top 5 sports experiences ever.
Oh, I can imagine. So then you move on and you get your master's degree in 2016 from DePaul University in Chicago. And then your first real journalism job was with the Bucyrus Telegraph Forum in week 4 of the 2016 fall sports season, and kind of got thrown right into the middle of that. Talk a little bit about how that was already, the season starting and you get thrown into it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember starting on a Monday, and then that Tuesday and Wednesday I was covering Northern 10 boys and girls golf tournaments, and I had no idea. So I just went out there and was kind of feeling it out. And then I think I covered a volleyball game that Thursday, and my first football game, I want to say, for some reason, I want to say it was a Winford Crawford, or it was a big game. I know that. And I was pretty intimidated, like having that be my first game. And I also, one of my fondest, or maybe not fondest, but one thing that I remember the most about my first couple weeks was I received an email from somebody talking about a lack of Buckeye Central volleyball coverage. And at that point they were undefeated, and they went on to win the league undefeated. And it was super overwhelming to me to see all the things going on in the fall. And I kind of had to learn it all within a week or two. But I felt like the community was very welcoming of me, so it made it easy.
Yeah, Zack, and coming from Virginia Beach, and then you come to a small town like Bucyrus and start writing for local sports here. And, and I'm pretty new to the game myself, only a couple years in Crawford County, and going from that and seeing the type of community response that you see from fans like Buckeye Central, Winford, Colonel Crawford, and teams like that, and everybody else in the N10 as well. And just coming into that, is it different than what you experienced in Virginia, or is it about the same?
Oh, it's completely different. I mean, I went to a high school where my graduating class was like 450 kids. So that's bigger than almost any other school in the area. And I just remember, like, in high school, like, a lot of people didn't really go to games. Like, I'd go to football games my junior and senior year, but that was just kind of to hang out with friends. It's not like the passion that all these schools have. And I mean, I went to a pretty bad school. I think we won like 3 or 4 football games in my 4 years. The only great thing I do remember seeing is Percy Harvin played for one of the other schools in our league. And I remember watching him torch us once. So that was probably the best thing I saw in high school. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's it's night and day. And I definitely give the edge to this area in terms of passion for sports and the area and community. It's second to none.
So when did you really kind of come around and decide, sports journalism I really enjoyed, and this is something I want to pursue? When did that kind of the flame, so to speak, ignite within you?
I'd say probably sophomore year of undergrad. I actually went to college initially to major in forensic science. And then I realized that I'm not good at science. I had struggled mightily in Chem 101. So I took a mass communications 101 class, and I'd always had a knack for writing. So pretty much taking that class really sparked the interest of, hey, maybe I could make a career out of this in one way or another. And like I had mentioned before, my undergrad's in broadcast actually. So I'm comfortable being in front of a camera or being behind a radio, but I guess what pushed me away from broadcast was seeing, they show us all the horror videos on YouTube of people messing up with live things, and that lives with you forever. Where like for print, I mean, I can put in a correction the next day, or online, I can change it before anybody really realizes it. So I didn't want to have a terrible YouTube video with me getting 1 million views messing up.
Understandable.
Going off of that a little bit, and obviously journalism isn't the same as it was even just a few years ago. You have to react on social media, and obviously you're huge on Twitter. And just, I guess, explain some of the difficulties that even from when you were in college compared to now.
It's a lot different. For college, I mean, both of my college papers were twice a week, so the urgency wasn't so much there to kind of get it up. I mean, I definitely still wrote as if I was on deadline to get something up right away. But I feel like my social media presence has kind of opened up some. Even my first probably 2 years here, I felt very like I could only tweet about like Crawford County things and only tweet about sports. And I've kind of opened up some to make it my own voice. And I feel like that's helped people kind of get to know me better and all that. And even just in my time at the Telegraph Forum, I mean, we've went from our deadlines now, or they just actually got moved up recently. My deadline's 2:00 in the afternoon for the next day's paper. And my first like 6 months here was, I think, 9:30 Monday through Thursday, and then midnight on Friday and Saturday. So it's very weird going from like having football in a Saturday paper to start off, and then now my Friday night football games are going in Monday's paper, and learning to adapt to writing differently. Like I can't just write a traditional gamer anymore because it's stale by the time people are reading it on Monday or even Saturday morning. So I feel like it's helped me. It hasn't been the easiest transition by any means, but I feel like it's helped me grow as a writer to branch from the traditional.
Let's go back a couple months ago. You're at Bowling Green State University covering Colonel Crawford in the regional semifinals. First time that they had been there in quite a long time, and unfortunately fell to Ottawa Glandorf. And we're probably going to go back a couple days later to cover Upper Sandusky, I suspect. And all of a sudden, the COVID kind of put that to a halt, and that was the end of winter sports. And it was really unclear at that time what was going to happen with spring sports. And as we all know, those got eliminated because of the COVID situation.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about the challenges as a journalist to have readers continue to look at content with really no content there to cover.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody had told me that the night that I left Bowling Green would be the last sporting event for that athletics year, I probably would have just laughed, because I thought, just like everybody else, that we would get something at some point, and it quickly turned into realizing that nothing was going to happen. I think the biggest thing was, with so much uncertainty early on in spring, I still wanted to do preview stories, and I put one out for every single sport there was, just in case. I mean, it helped me get ready. It helped give me optimism that maybe there was going to be an abridged spring. But mostly I wanted to do it to kind of set up honoring the seniors, which I branched into. I wanted to get the preview stories out to get their names out there so they could get another clipping, so that the underclassmen could get their names in there, some promising kids who were going to be stepping up. And I kind of got the idea of Jamie Burke at Winford actually gave me the idea for the Deer softball, baseball, track, all that. In her preview form, she included Deer softball letters from her seniors, and just reading through those immediately, I was like, I want to do this for as many teams as I possibly can if and when the day comes that sports are over, because one, I made them their own day to give the kids that kind of recognition, but I thought it was nice to hear about it from them. Like, obviously I can interview them and have them answer questions and then write something like that, but to hear them actually put something in their own words about what a sport has meant or what the team has meant, I just loved that. I mean, I enjoyed, granted, I was just really copying and pasting them most of the time, but I enjoyed doing that and reading over them. And I felt like I got to know these kids a little bit better.
I thought it was really well done and very poignant. Very good on you.
Yeah. And it was, I wanted to do obviously, like, there were a lot of teams like Colonel Crawford baseball. I mean, we know what they were set to do this year, or Bucyrus softball. I mean, with Galleon moving up to Division II, I mean, that Division III district was all Bucyrus's to win. And then obviously the track athletes. I mean, Kerrigan Myers at Galleon, I mean, she had a good chance to win 3 individual titles, possibly 4, and help lead that team to a team title, which would have been Galleon girls' first team title ever. And then the 2 kids at Crawford, Muchler and Krasow, I mean, they went to state last year, and I mean, they were both hungry to stand atop the podium again. So I felt for the kids, and I wanted to do as much as I could to really give them the recognition that they would have gotten had spring actually happened.
Yeah, and that's obviously tough times for the seniors, and I guess just getting a sense on what they felt overall. Was it a sense of sadness, going through that, or was there optimism that they might have a sport to go along with in the spring?
I'd say it was some of the earlier kids I talked to, it was definitely optimism. You could tell with them talking that they were thinking about the possibility of not ever getting to play with their teammates again and all that. But everybody was very optimistic, even some of the kids who were realistic in the sense of knowing that sports probably isn't going to happen. I mean, they never gave up hope, and I thought that was very admirable.
We're visiting with sports journalist from the Bucyrus Telegraph Forum, Zack Holden. And Zack, tell our audience a little bit, because I caught a snippet of it on Twitter today because you're such a good follow, about the next project you have coming up about the top 100 in Crawford County.
Yeah, it was definitely inspired by Jake Furr in Mansfield. He obviously has a lot more kids than I do. And we've kind of been bouncing around story ideas off each other all spring and even kind of going into the summer. And I wanted to do the same thing he did, but in a condensed version with Crawford County. So I spent several hours over the last few days, and including working just about up until deadline today to get the story out. Just going over any kid that got postseason accolades or was just kind of I knew was going to have a breakout season or something like that. And it ended up, I think I ended up with like 128 or 130. So the best way I could kind of do it was just condense the ones above 100 into like an honorable mentions for now. And ranking is very difficult, which when the story comes out tomorrow, you'll see pretty much 26 up until, or honestly, 21 up until 100. It's not really ranked in any sense. I tried to kind of give precedent to somebody who got first team would be ranked higher than somebody who got second or honorable mention. But that's really the only, I guess, distinguishing factor there. I just kind of wanted to honor the kids as much as I could and talk about the kids coming back who, there's a lot, honestly. Like, I had a handful in my mind. I was like, okay, this is probably going to be the top like 10 or 15. And then I started going and going and going. and it was a lot tougher than I thought. And I remember Jake telling me how hard it was for him because he had 200 kids. But I think it's going to be really fun. I hope I don't offend too many people with where kids are ranked. I know I'm probably going to, but I just want to throw it out there that the rankings honestly mean nothing up until the top 20. And even then it's completely subjective and basically my opinion only. So I did want to ask you guys if you had any thoughts of who you potentially think the best athlete in Crawford County returning is. I will give you this. I'm doing a top male and a top female because I think that's only fair, but I just kind of wanted to get your guys' input. I'm not going to tell you who mine is because I don't want to spoil it, but
yeah, there's so many. And I don't know that I can just say it right off the cuff, but I'll have to think of that and I'll get back to you. But, you mentioned the talent that's around. And when we had Coach Abram Capel from Buckeye Central, girls coach, a couple weeks back, I reminded him that 9 of the 10 top scorers in the N10 are back this year. And I don't think he really wanted to hear that except for his girls. But you're right. It is a loaded area for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like we had so many seniors this year that I kind of thought, I guess as the season was progressing, I was like, oh, next year might be somewhat of a down year overall in Crawford County. And then I started doing this list, and I'm like, it might even be better than we had last year.
Yeah, last year's going to be tough to beat. I mean, you have Josh Kroll, Gavin Fichtner, and others, among others. Gordon Finner in there as well. So I don't even know, Zach. It's tough to choose just one, but I don't know how you did it. You said you didn't have any help at all?
No. I threw out a list of names to Jake and kind of asked for a little bit of input, but I didn't take it too much into account. I just kind of wanted to see what he was doing. His number one's a little more clear cut than mine, which I'm also not going to spoil that. But so, yeah.
That's a good one. We'll have to think about that, Jared.
Yeah, maybe next show we'll come up with it. So I guess going off of that, and obviously football is back here with some contact going on. Have you been out to many practices lately?
I haven't yet. I went out to Crestline's weight room last week, and some of the kids are practicing outside, but that was still technically in phase 1. So, which I've heard was kind of strange for a lot of teams. I was talking to Capel last week too, and he said pretty much practices are just girls dribbling and working on individual fundamentals, which is never a bad thing to work on, but it's definitely not exactly what you want to be working on when you could, if things were normal, you could be doing actual drills and stuff. So yeah, I know it's definitely a weird time right now. I always talk to, because I'm doing my Saturday sit down series too, where I chat with new coaches, and I just talked to the new Crestline golf coach, which obviously that's a little bit different of a sport where there's not contact or anything in that. But even he says it's kind of weird because you still have to social distance and you still have to, I guess, practice good hygiene and all that. And you can't have big groups and all that. So I'm not envious of any coaches right now. That's for sure.
I want to touch on Crestline for just a moment. That's a district that's gone through a lot of change in administration. I think that the superintendent and the principal and even athletic director they have in place are really solid people. I've met all of them, and a couple really good coaches. You look at Johnny King from a football standpoint, Tyler Sanders, Kyle Strout, the girls basketball coach. I mean, he does everything. Cripe, he does cross country or something in the fall, and then basketball, and then track in the spring. But just kind of give your feedback on what you see out of that community specifically, just because I think there's some resurgence there.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think pretty much all of the coaches that they have in place have a similar goal to get Crestline into a program, regardless of what sport it is, that people don't take lightly. I mean, everybody has the right idea of how they want to build for the future. And a lot of the kids up until about this year or last year were so used to getting a new coach in every sport every single year. So the turnover, I mean, it's hard to build something when you don't even have stability as a coach. And I think basically all the hires that they've made over the last year or two, they're all there for the long run. And I think that's exactly what that school needs.
So we're heading into football season here, and do you have any thoughts of what you think football season is going to be like? Are there going to be limited fans, without fans? What are you thinking? I mean, we both witnessed the Stroh Center in Bowling Green and how that atmosphere was, I guess, weird if you look at it. But
Yeah,
give me your take on that and what you think is going to happen here in the fall.
man, I wish I was thinking about that all day. And I really have no idea. I would like to think that fans are going to be a thing. I can't imagine that I can't imagine limited fans being a solution, because I feel like you would just run into so many obstacles of how do you choose who gets to go? Like, do you limit it to parents only? Or I just feel like there's too many things that can go wrong with trying to limit fans. And I think it almost has to be all or nothing. And if it's nothing, I don't know. I mean, I don't even want to think about seeing kids playing football with nobody in the stands. That would just be the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I couldn't even imagine, with all my years of officiating, doing freshman games with 50 people there. I mean, you could hear everything that was going on, and it just wasn't that same atmosphere. So I certainly understand that. Just kind of quickly, as we preview and get ready for fall, just kind of give us your thoughts on who you think some of the competitive teams in the Northern 10 Conference will be in men and ladies golf, cross country, volleyball, and football, just kind of as a big overview. Who do you expect to have good seasons?
Football, I kind of got to give the edge to Winford. They're returning a lot. And I felt like they had a better than expected year last year, and that was seen by sharing the league title. I don't think really anybody saw that coming. And like I said, they had a ton of young talent then. They didn't lose a whole lot. Boys golf, I mean, upper's always good because they've got the numbers. Seneca East I feel like they're just churning out studs every single year. They've got a new number one who's just as good as the one before. Winford should be pretty decent. Buckeye Central's got a ton of kids back. Their golf program always impresses me with how many kids that they get out. And I think I don't remember. They might have lost only one senior or something. But most of their kids coming back, I was just actually looking today, they had 4 kids ranked in the top 21 for average. And obviously golf, I mean, if you can get kids shooting that close together, you're going to compete for a lot of titles. Girls, I mean, Winford girls are probably going to be pretty good. They return just about everybody too. Volleyball, I think volleyball is going to be really fun to watch this year. You can never discount Buckeye. Crawford has a ton of girls coming back and a new coach who was the assistant coach, Taylor Kelso. So all the girls are very familiar with her. And I think fall is just going to be a lot of fun to watch in any sport.
I'd say it's going to be a sense of urgency. The kids have been trapped. They were without spring sports. So I think it's going to be exciting times here in the fall. And I guess looking on that as well, and the possibility of college sports. I mean, we're hearing in the news, it seems like every day, that some college team has multiple kids that have come down with the coronavirus. I guess what's your thoughts on college and pro sports? Obviously baseball, they finally we're supposed to report on July 1st. Are we going to have them? Are we going to start it up, stop? What do you think is going to happen?
It would not surprise me if we see a lot of starting and stopping. I am glad that baseball finally figured things out. But the back and forth that kept going on, part of me was also like, I wish Manfred would just say, forget about it. We're not having baseball, since nobody could really decide on anything. But like you said, it seems like something new pops up every single day, where it's a pro team or it's a couple dozen college kids. College is the biggest thing that I don't really know. I remember seeing something when all this started and the first talks of potentially losing college sports happened. It was like a $4 billion loss if college football can't happen, which is just a mind-blowing number. And that's just football. I mean, that doesn't even if it were to keep going, go into basketball again or anything like that. So kind of going back to the optimistic thing. I mean, I'm very optimistic that college sports are going to happen, and I think pro sports are going to happen to an extent. I know soccer leagues over in Europe and stuff, they've been going. I think the German league's in their 5th or 6th week back. The English league is in their 2nd week now, and they're all playing in front of no fans. And it's very strange to see that, because I mean, you can hear everything that they're saying on the pitch and all that. And we know that golf's back up and NASCAR's back up. It just, I don't really know if it's worth the risk, honestly, because I mean, there's all this talk about another wave hitting later in the year. And that's really kind of when other sports would be towards the end of it, getting into playoffs. And do you want to play up until that and then stop in the playoffs? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's just a wait and see approach. I mean, just see what the numbers are and go from there, I guess.
Yeah, which is kind of scary to think that you can't really plan for anything. You have to pretty much run these multi-million, sometimes billion-dollar organizations with a day-to-day mindset, which, again, I'm not envious of the people that actually have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Well, Zach, our time's starting to run out of here a little bit. We could probably talk for another half hour, 45 minutes, but unfortunately our time's coming to a close. Are you up for a little rapid fire?
Yep.
Okay, so we always like to ask this question. If unfortunately every single restaurant closed except for one because you love it the best, which one would it have to be for Zack Holden?
I've actually been thinking about that for 3 days now, and I still didn't really know what I was going to say up until right now. I would probably have to go with Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Good.
right.
Good. Because if you ask Josh Stallings, he will say it's Cane's, but no doubt in my mind it's Chick-fil-A.
I like Chick-fil-A better. I do like Cane's, but Chick-fil-A definitely takes the cake.
All right. Chick-fil-A it is. Jared?
So right now you've had some free time, obviously. What are you binge watching?
We just finished the latest season of 13 Reasons Why.
I'm right in the middle of it, so no spoilers.
Yes, no. It gets intense. That's all I'm going to say. My wife and I were looking through series yesterday to try to pick a new one, and we've got a couple picked out. I don't actually remember what they're called. We just watched the trailers for them. But yeah, so currently nothing, but we just finished 13 Reasons Why.
When we were setting this up, you shared with me that you were a pretty competitive soccer player from the age of 13, or excuse me, from 3 till 18. So I have to ask you, what is your favorite side? What is your favorite team that you watch, either in the States or internationally?
My favorite club is Arsenal in London. I actually have a tattoo on my calf. It's one of only 3 tattoos I have, and it was my first one ever. So that just kind of goes to show how passionate I am about the club.
The Gunners.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
So you covered obviously a lot of games in the area between from here in 2016. What is your favorite stadium to cover for a football game?
Oh, probably Bucyrus, because of how spaced out it is. I like how it's just completely open. I don't feel as cramped. But that's just from my perspective. And there's always Baker's Pizza. So.
Oh yeah, you definitely got like 40 yards worth of press box in there.
Yeah.
How about basketball, Jim? What's got to be the best atmosphere for basketball around?
Oh, I'm probably going to get flack from some other people, but I honestly don't think there's a better place than the Mac Morrison. I mean, when the Mac is packed, that's the best atmosphere I've been in.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'll probably get some flack too, but that's okay, because that's what we do in journalism, right?
Yep.
We state our opinion, and not everybody likes it. So, well, Zach, you have anybody you want to shout out tonight?
Honestly, I'll give you guys a shout out. I mean, this was a ton of fun. I know when the project was kind of first starting off, I shot you a message, and I was very interested in doing it, and it sounds like you had a very overwhelming amount of people. So I'm just gracious that you guys wanted to chat with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we have had a really good response and still have some more to go that probably wonder when their number is going to get called. And I
Yeah.
just would encourage them to be a little patient. But thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. As I mentioned, you're a really good follow on Twitter. Tell the viewers how they can follow you on social media.
My Twitter is at Zachary_Holden. That's pretty much, I'm on there several times a day. So if you want to kind of get a better look into my mind or follow any game that I'm covering, that's the place to go.
And if you want Arsenal information, right?
Yes, yeah. Only when they're doing well, which is not right now. They're pretty bad. So
Understood. Jared, have anything for wrap up tonight?
No, and I just going back 2018, my first football season in Crawford County, Crestline. You were the first person I met, Zach. I've always enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you a little better. So it's been great having you on the show. And hopefully look forward to some fall sports, and we'll see you around.
yeah, definitely. I hope we can go back to somewhat normality in the fall.
Yeah, well, keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing a fine job for our newspaper, and I think you have really good insight. I appreciate your talent, and we look forward to the fall season and anytime really with the stories that are coming out of your mind, and just appreciate the work you do.
Of course, I appreciate it.
As we close here, I want to remind you that the comments and views expressed in this podcast series are those of Mike Sparks, Jared Moore, and our guest. This podcast is not associated in any way with WBCO or WQEL radio. That'll put a wrap to this episode of the Overtime Podcast with Sparksy and Jared. We'll be making an announcement soon who our next guest will be, so be looking forward to that on Twitter and Facebook. On behalf of my host, Jared Moore, and our guest, Zack Holden, that'll put a close to this episode, and I remind you, as always, a spirit with a vision is a dream with a mission. Have a good night, everybody.